Aloha and welcome to all our guests to the Design Thinking 2020 Challenge. Thank you very much. My name is Ron Matayoshi, and I'm one of the learning team faculty for the LEN program. By way of some introduction and background, we are a federal granted program, and our name is the Hawaii Maternal Child Health Leadership Education in Neurodevelopmental Disabilities. Our mission is to train professionals, practicing professionals, and master's level graduate students to become leaders and advocates while they work with children and families with special healthcare needs. So welcome to our webinar, and I think you'll enjoy the presentations. Several months ago, a classmate of mine who is also with the Community Church of Honolulu and I were talking about the COVID era and the challenges and difficulties they were having in their own congregation. And as we talked more and more, we came to this conclusion that we were all wrestling with the same challenge. Whether it was a small or large group, a formal or informal organization, the same challenges of every member in that organization were these. How do we stay connected because of the COVID? And in addition to that, how do we increase our socialization? Not just connection, but have a connection where we can talk and feel like we're part of that community again. And the reason why this is important is because of this prolonged isolation that all of us, whether you're in a faith-based group or another organization or even within your family, this prolonged isolation involving that is bringing up loneliness, is bringing up a need for the human connection. And my high school friend and I were saying, well, why don't we use this as a challenge for our 22 trainees in the LEN program who bring in diverse professional perspectives. And when we decided to do that, we decided also to bring on several partners, a couple other partners. The United Church of Christ, the Congregational Church of Nuuanu, to participate and help in understanding what that problem challenge would be. And with our 3 partners and 6 teams that we developed through the LEN program, we came up with this challenge statement. And let me read it to you. If you could redesign the church as a place of worship, what would it look like in a COVID-19 era? You could easily say if you could redesign your organization as a place of fellowship, what would it look like in a COVID era? So given that challenge statement, we didn't just dive into a solution. That was not the purpose of this exercise for these 6 teams. We went through what we call a design thinking model. And as you can see, the model has 5 phases. We asked each team to gather empathy data, not only statistics like we usually do in the university, not numbers, but users' feelings and needs and wants. Each team created that opportunity for themselves and collected data for each team. And from that data, they made some decisions around what users really wanted and needed, and they defined a problem statement. From that problem statement, they went into ideation. Each team created various models of prototypes that they thought was good, some components not too good. And they presented that as one round of testing. Moving forward, they eventually came down with a prototype that they will be presenting today. Their prototype, it's not a finished product, but it's a creative and innovative idea that they thought through as they looked at the user empathy information. Their presentation today, about 15 minutes or so long for each team, will be presented, and now feedback from you would be much appreciated. The design thinking model that you just saw produced 6 prototypes. All of the prototypes are based on the user's needs and wants. This is very important. It's not the team's needs and wants. It's the user, who they talk to. Each presentation will be 8 minutes long, approximately, and we will have 3 minutes for feedback before we proceed to the next prototype presentation. We will start the first presentation at 8:45. That's in about 6 minutes or so. But you also have a role in this effort. As you listen to those prototype presentations, our goal is that we hope that it'll spark innovation and creativity for your own solutions. Take some of the good points of that prototype. It may be a solution for your organization, your group. So we want you to take that as a responsibility on your side. So what do we want you to do as an active participant? Well, certainly we want you to sit back and enjoy the presentations. Okay? We hope it sparks your own innovative and creative solutions. And in the chat box, for those that are comfortable in using that, in the Zoom, you'll see a chat box, a chat function. We would like you to share comments as you feel appropriate, yeah, in the chat box itself. Each team will be watching the chat box, looking at your comments, and maybe even answering some questions that you may have. So please use that as your means of communicating with the team. And finally, feedback from you is most appreciated. At the end of the presentations, you will see a link in the chat box that will link you to a very short survey that we hope that you will complete. If you do not have time to complete that survey, when we send you a thank you email, because you've put your email address to us, please take that link and fill out the survey then. So we would very much appreciate your feedback and contribution. All presentations are being taped, and we will be putting those presentations on YouTube, and that will be in the thank you note also. So friends, family, other leaders can tap into the YouTube function and see the presentations one more time. So let's begin. I'm looking at my time. We have 3 minutes. This is the presentation sequence. At 8:45, as I promised, we will have Oahu team presenting. And if they do end early, we will take a short pause and we will start on time at 9 for the Shave Ice Kingdom. I love these. These are names of their own teams that they brought up. So have fun with that. And we'll move through this webinar till 10:15, where I will close it very quickly and remind you again for the survey, for you to complete the survey questionnaire. Okay, that's all I have right now. So I am going to sign off. And thank again all of you for participating and listening and being active participants in this effort. And we will start in about 2 minutes with the first presentation at 8:45 Oahu Group.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MCH Len Design Thinking 2020 Challenge webinar. We are the OAK Group, and we are Kainani, Nadine, Lonnie, and I'm Jess. To address the challenge of how to redesign church as a place of fellowship during the COVID pandemic, our group designed a prototype that we are calling Puppies and Prayers. During our empathy data gathering phase, we asked a variety of community members about their experiences in the pandemic. We found that from our data pool, 53% of them experienced social isolation and loneliness, 2/3 experienced a fear of COVID-19, and 60% had attended church services in person prior to the pandemic. The graphs on the following slide give more details on the demographics of our poll group. As you can see, we had slightly more females than males. What many of them had in common was their experiences with loneliness and fear of COVID, and this was seen across the age range. We wanted to share what two of the individuals, Gerard and May, told us about how the pandemic affected them.
I miss seeing my friends at church. It gets lonely at home with just me and the wife. Sometimes we feel segregated without visitors.
Most of the members at church, like me, are old. I'm afraid of getting sick with the virus. I think the others feel the same, too.
We recognize that many of the people that we spoke to, especially the kupuna, were greatly impacted by the loss of social community that their churches provided, but were concerned about the risks of going to church right now. So the problem we wanted to address was that the church needs a safe and accessible way for members to connect and create a sense of community during COVID-19. Our approach is twofold. The first is the community outreach, which Kainani will explain, and the second is the in-person service, which Lonnie and Nadine will go into.
So our first approach is community outreach. So going off our empathy data, we found that social isolation and loneliness is common, specifically among older adults. 25% of older adults reported social isolation pre-pandemic, and it was exacerbated by the guidelines instituted during the pandemic in Hawaii. This can increase levels of anxiety, depression, and risk for suicide. Also, it has a 50% increased risk of dementia. Studies show that animal-assisted therapy can lead to increased mood, not only for our everyday individual, but even more specifically for kupuna. Yet, unfortunately, many seniors cannot physically or financially afford to maintain animals. Our solution, animatronic puppies. So animatronic puppies are low maintenance, cost effective. There's a lot of evidence to show that they can lower anxiety and depression, increase socialization, increase mood, and also decrease feelings of isolation. Here are two kupuna who are playing with their puppy. So who could help? Volunteers from the church, volunteers from local high schools who are looking to do community outreach, as well as universities such as HBU, UH, social work, and pre-health and health students. How can they help? Of course, they can help set up the animals, help the kupuna adjust to what it would be like, but also it's tied into a friendly visiting program as needed, bi-weekly or weekly visits, phone calls, dependent on safety and guidelines for that specific individual. Talk story, get to know that individual, and also more importantly, provide tech assistance, not only for the animal, but make sure that they're being able to connect to church, whether it be through Zoom or being able to connect with the internet with their friends and family on the outside. And I'm gonna take it to Lonnie to explain a little bit more about the puppies.
So these adorable puppies are battery operated. In fact, batteries are included. They can be easily cleaned with a non-toxic toy cleaner or germicidal wipe, and bulk order discounts are available when buying direct from the manufacturer. Our second approach is in-person services. This approach allows church members a safe and accessible way to connect and experience that sense of community. We prepared a short animation of what this would look like. Let's take a peek. Churchgoers will be greeted at the parking lot entrance by church volunteers. From there, they will be directed to park and remain in the car. Service will be conducted live and broadcasted over their car radio using an FM or AM transmitter. Members can hear the church's message and sing hymns while maintaining a safe distance within their car. And now, Nadine will present some communion opportunities.
So one of our last details of this presentation is continuing with the sense of community and fellowship. Prepackaged communion items or blessing bags can hold food items and snacks, welcoming pamphlets, tithings and offerings, envelopes, or any other items you want to package for your in-person or drive-through services. Another aspect that we might miss in church or organization settings, the coffee and tea fellowship. So drive-by coffee and tea stations can still be a part of the morning fellowship and can be handed out by volunteers to keep things safe with minimal contact. So our goal for this presentation was to create a safe and accessible way for members to connect and create a sense of community during these COVID times. We thought of animatronic puppies to help those that feel isolated, drive-in worship services with the use of AM/FM transmission to maintain safe social distancing, and communion and volunteer opportunities to keep that church community connected. We hope that you enjoyed our presentation, and please feel free to submit questions in the chat and we will get to them shortly.
And now we'd love to answer some of your questions. So please go ahead and put them in the chat. So we have a question from Nicole, and she's asking, can the puppy record voices? So the puppies that we feature here, unfortunately, they do not record voices. However, they can detect your voice. And when it detects your voice, then it does movement. It does make some noises as well. We have some questions about the price range of the animatronic pets. So the price range of the pets range from $129.99 to $189.99. However, when buying directly from the manufacturer, they do offer bulk item discounts, bulk order discounts. And if you'd like that information, we can make that available to you as well. And we have a question from Jessie. Are animatronic animals common for this specific use? I'd like to pass that over to Kainani, who has done some research on that.
Thank you for your question, Jessie. So there's actually been small studies specifically for older adults in hospice population, those who are dementia or pre-dementia, that shows that the use of the animatronic puppies can decrease the dementia symptoms, as well as increase things like appetite, mood, and socialization, and decrease also problem behaviors. And there was also an important thing about medication fidelity. It helps them increase and take their medication as well for the pre-dementia patients. And I think we all know that puppies in general are very soothing. So specifically with older adult populations, I think they need that comfort even more in that time. And you see Lonnie actually has one of the puppies, if anybody's interested. She's demoing it.
And I don't know if you can hear it, but it's barking and making some noises. The tail wags as well. And so I see that Vince has a question, and let me just Vince has a question regarding can they request a certain type of dogs. I know that with this manufacturer where I purchased this puppy from, Joy for All, they have just this specific dog, and they also have cats as well. And I think cats seem to be a little bit more popular than the puppy based on the information that I gathered from the manufacturer.
Okay. Thank you, Lonnie. And thank you, Oahu Group, for starting it off with that first prototype. I hope that our guests are starting to get the idea about how these prototypes might be or could be used in your own situation with your groups, your family, or your organizations. At 9 o'clock, we will start with the next team, and their title is, you'll love this, Shave Ice Kingdom. Please keep adding your questions and comments, even good ideas, other options, things that popped in your mind that could inspire our teams and others that are reading the chat to think deeper or wider about what these prototypes or new ideas that you have might help their organization. I think Laurie Hamano, my buddy, is going to buy a ton of those dogs. That's our passion. Our next team is about to begin, maybe in about 30 seconds, once you guys get ready. Shave Ice Kingdom with their prototype and some of their needs and wants of their users.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Juliana Garcia, and I'm a special ed teacher and one of the participants of the Shave Ice Kingdom group, along with Chandler Gottfried, mental health counselor, and Victoria Murray, self-advocate. Go ahead, Chandler. We would like to share, first of all, our empathy data so you can understand better the possible solutions we came up with. So our facts are shown on the data, and then we will reveal what all the individuals and institutions shared in common, in which became our problem statement. We interviewed around 36 people across 3 different countries and 10 different churches across the United States. Most of those individuals were church followers. However, we interviewed different group of people who also used to attend other social gatherings that shared similar concerns and feelings about not being able to participate in face-to-face services or events. So different statements were made, such, I feel I don't have my church family anymore, or I miss holding my friends, or I miss singing songs, things that uplift me, gives me strength to make through the next week. So with all this information, it was obvious that people were sharing the feeling of emptiness and many times loneliness. They're missing being able to hold somebody's hands, to pat each other's back, to talk stories beside each other. With that in mind, we found our problem statement: a need for a sense of community. So Chandler and Victoria will present our possible solutions for this problem.
Thank you, Juliana. One of our design thinking prototypes things is the church welcome kit. So when you arrive to the church with your tent and your family, you receive a survival kit with all the things that bring cinnamon joy and keep you safe, like motivation quote, food recipe, games, masks, and gloves, hand sanitizer, and delicious snacks. So this survival kit, welcome kit, is weekly. And the reason for this is that kind of brings a sense of like of giving, like the church gives back what you have given to the church, and it's kind of a really wholesome gift that you can receive. Okay, now I'll give it to Chandler to talk about the tents.
Thank you, Juliana and Victoria. So our second prototype involves a concept called the BYOT, which means bring your own tent. So in the picture on the left, a concert held in the UK during COVID used pods for fans to sit and enjoy their favorite band. This allowed people to remain safe and distance from one another. So the picture on the right is a normal beach gathering in Hawaii, and the tent represents safety and a sense of community where families can enjoy each other and their friends. This can be used in a church setting as well. So our idea was to have people in the church bring their own tents to sit under and enjoy the sermon while their kids are playing around the area. And this would give you a sense of community, but also giving you your safe and your distancing that is required during COVID. So bring your own tent, BYOT, definitely one of our main ideas, along with our third prototype, which is the hugging booth. And so physical contact was the #1 thing that people missed. The hugging booth will provide a sense of contact and intimacy while also keeping people safe. So as you can see, everyone's wearing their mask in the picture, except the one on the right, because I think that was an older picture, but you know, everyone has a thin sheet in between them and they're able to just hug another person and feel that intimacy that we all miss. And with the church and everything, the people that we had contacted, they said that they missed that physical contact, the hand holding and the hugging. And, you know, that's a really big part of church, being able to go somewhere and just enjoy someone else's intimacy and contact. And so with these 3 prototypes, whether you're enjoying the goodie bag under your tent or receiving a much needed hug during these hard times, you can assure that your health and safety are cared for while feeling a sense of community again. And that is our presentation.
Now we're going to open for questions or comments and any feedback you guys may have to give it for us. So, yeah, I noticed that there are some comments about people enjoying the idea of the pod. So they're asking, also saying that what about the families who don't have a tent or don't have the ability to put up a tent, like our kupuna?
That is a great idea. And I think one of our other ideas besides the bring your own tent was to have churches have the ability to have like those little pods like you saw in the picture of the UK concert, and that, you know, they could go sit down and enjoy, or maybe even the church has, you know, tents that they can rent. And at the very end of the sermon, there could be a community cleanup where everyone can get together and, you know, clean down the tents and make sure that everything's sterilized. And we just kind of focused on one of the couple ideas, but we had so many that it was hard to just narrow down just one.
Right, and the pods can be made with like cheap material too, just setting the limits, the boundaries that that specific family will not be, you know, going further away from that specific limited area. So that can be done, maybe even like the followers of the church can help out the, you know, the administrators in the church to create pods for those who doesn't have tent. The tents allow for good ventilation, which is essential. That's a very good remark there, May. And bags could also include food items. Rom is making an observation that yes, can be like, maybe contain like recipes or cookies, that sense of community. When you go to church, you always have, like you can even have like, a cup, a reusable cup, so you can get some coffee or tea. We can definitely include whatever is important for that specific church in that welcome kit bag that, the followers are going to receive every week, every Sunday.
I believe May had a question of, do you know of an easy way to create a hug station? There's quite a few. I've seen a lot of them with a PVC pipe, and then they take like a bath curtain, like a clear bath curtain, and you just cut holes down the side. You get really long gloves, and that way you're able to sit there and hug the other person while wearing your mask. And that way you have a sheet in between your guys' face, which I think is the most important part, so we don't spread the germs that that COVID travels on.
Yeah, and another question was like the smell that might impact the hugging experience when we are using cleaning products. Definitely you have to be careful about sensitive skin and also the smell of it. For weather concerns, what about weather? When the weather turns?
Well, that happens all the time in Hawaii. It'll go from sunny to rainy, back to sunny. Weather concerns, that's why we thought the tent would be a better idea. That way, if it was raining, you could sit underneath the tent. But I know sometimes the conditions in Hawaii can be a lot worse with the wind and everything. So that's a very good question. Well, good thing that's why this is a prototype and not our for sure thing, because there's a lot of things that need to be really looked at in our prototype as well.
Yeah. And photos can absolutely be in the goodie bag to share with friends also.
I believe, the key factor here on creating the pods or choosing the place to put the tents will be like the main factor, because that can impact if it rains, like it's not going to be flooded. So definitely to pick a good spot to do this services will be very important. Yeah, so we are also talking about during our discussions previously that we could have a tent to support the kupuna or people who does not have enough knowledge to go online, because those services can be held in a place for those who cannot have access, online access, because many people choose to be at home for safety reasons and in order to listen to the service. But for people who does not have that that option, because they do not know how to get online or they have difficulties, this is just like an option for them to have a face-to-face services. So it doesn't really need to be a huge space, because not necessarily all the people there is going to be the ones listening to the service. And that service can be mainstream online as well at the same time for those who choose to stay at home.
Jeff had a question about, do the cleaning products leave a smell that might impact the hugging experience and intimacy? That is also a really good question. My idea was that on Sunday after the church finished their sermon and everything, and people cleaned up the hugging booth, that it would probably sit around for about a week until the next time they use it. And hopefully the smell by that time would be gone off of it. But then again, it's something that you'd have to test, and I haven't had a chance to do that yet, so I might have to. That'd be a good idea. That's a very good question, Jeff. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Shea Vice Kingdom. Appreciate the presentation. I want to go back to Christopher's question way on the top of the chat, because I thought he brought up a good idea. His question was, what about smaller congregations that have difficult time putting tents and, you know, doing a lot of these things, and a lot of pressure on the pastor to coordinate all of these activities. And this is a good way, in a way, to get your church members involved in the setting up and participation of the services itself. I think traditionally the pastor had a heavy load on his or her shoulders to get this done. Also, collaborating with other churches of similar faith and maybe creating new friendships with several congregations might be an opportunity to share fellowship with each other. And they may have more space, more opportunities, more volunteers to go out and engage with the kupuna that are homebound, help with the setup of whatever prototype the folks designed to move forward. At 9:15, we'll have our next team, and they are called Workaholics, to present their prototype. And that would be in about a couple minutes. But keep adding your thoughts to the chat as good ideas. These are not polished ideas. They're something that you can take back to your leadership and discuss parts of it, all of it, or even redefine it for yourselves. Okay, in about a minute, we'll hear from Workaholics.
So I'm Olivia. My group is Alyssa, Kara, and Annie, and we are the team Workaholics. So when we were gathering our empathy data, it kind of made like a word bubble of what some of the major themes or words that were said, but a lot of people wanted to express their emotions and have a physical contact, and they're really missing being able to go to the church in person and to see basically their family. They wanted to be able to hold their hand or give them a hug, and just to check up on them, which is a little bit different than when you are virtual or not be able to see them in person. And the community or the group that they felt they were missing the most during this time is the kupuna, because sometimes they have a little bit more difficulties with technical issues or knowing how to sign on to Zoom or going through the YouTube channels. And so we wanted to tie all these major themes into our problem statement.
And so after we gathered our empathy data, we thought what we were hearing from everyone with our friends and families. Thank you for some of those who were allowed us to interview you. And what we came up with for our problem statement was that we felt that the church community, everyone of all ages, needed a way to bond that made them feel physically connected, even in ways where they physically couldn't be next to each other. Next slide, please. And so what our group decided to do was, instead of focusing on just one activity that the church can focus on, we felt that when you actually create a relationship with someone, you want to keep working with things and have new things involved, right? And so we decided to make quarterly projects. And that's why you see 4 beautiful calendars here on the screen. And within each quarter, you have a specific activity that the church can try to plan. And we'll actually go over to in more detail later on in this presentation. With these quarterly activities, as you can see on the slide, there's people of all ages. You have your kupuna, you have your keiki, and you have the parents as well. And then you can also try to do something that doesn't break the bank. And you'll hear more about that in Kara's presentation after this. But after you think of all of these activities, if we go to the next slide, you notice there's a car. It's a very common theme amongst all the groups. But what we thought, to really create a sense of pride and to make it adaptable to your own church, because every church has their own parking lot sizes in different locations, we thought maybe if you can just do a drive-through and showcase these activities to create the sense of bonding and pride. So for example, if we had a quilt or a blanket, you can hang it up and people can drive by and see it. The kupuna can go out, the keiki can go out and still stay in a safe place, but they still see things that they created themselves. Or if you had a video, you can show the kupuna or clips, put it on an inflatable projector, and the same thing. drive on by, be proud. And so we also thought, since there's Aloha Stadium and other people that have already done things like this with the Halloween haunted house and with Christmas lights, we have a lot of big brothers and big sisters to lean on. Next slide, please. And so just to kind of summarize this, you have a lot of bonding, it's active, you feel connected and happy with your church, and you have a lot of pride. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Kara to give us a little bit more detail on one of the activities we have planned for the quarter.
Hi, everyone. So one idea we had was to create kind of a memorial quilt. And just the basic loose idea would be that people are given the task of having a 6x6 inch or however big you want the square to be. And then you can have a theme for that quarter. So like for the holidays, it could be being thankful or being grateful or love. And then having the families be able to be independent in how they want to portray that and how they want to, I guess, show that. And so this is just something that I did on my own with some of the free time I've had in COVID, and I love my dog. So I made a pillow of his face. And we also really wanted it to be not cost prohibitive, in that you can use materials that you find around your house. Like some of these fabrics I had from like my mom's old clothes, and then you can also go to like donations. But really it doesn't involve too much planning or logistical work on the church community's, I guess, part, because the church members are the ones that are going to be able to come up with the ideas of how they want to be interacting in this theme. And then they can come together and put it together in a full quilt that then becomes part of the drive-through group project at the very end.
Thank you, Olivia, but you're muted real quick.
Okay, so we wanted to do something to be able to get the kupuna involved, and we threw around some ideas, but we decided that a show and tell was probably the best to get the kupuna out from, based off our feedback from a previous presentation. But this is my mom and my niece, and they're having a little talk story, but it was late, so there was no driving. But imagine that my mom, they were in the car and they could have this conversation together.
What does faith mean to you?
Let's see. I think faith to me is believing in God, that God will protect me, guide me, and help me make the right choices. Protect not only me, but my family, which includes you, grandchildren, my children, everyone that's close, that's important to me. And try to just trust God. What about you? What do you think?
To just believe in someone and trust.
Would be to believe.
God, Jesus. Believe in people. What dreams do you have about me and Raiden?
What dreams? I want the two of you to grow up being nice, kind, be respectful, grateful.
So there's more, but given the time, I'll pause it there. But there were other questions that we came up with that she was answering prior, but we shortened the video, but it was more, what what was your favorite childhood memory? And my mom then asked my niece, oh, so what dreams do you have for you and your brother? And then it opened a dialogue afterwards where my niece was now asking like, oh, I want to see photos of my dad and you when you were children. So it opened a lot more conversation about our past and our upbringing.
So just in closing, like Olivia said, these questions were brief and just examples of how you can bring a sense of connectedness back to the church community and within your family. Other examples of questions that could be asked are what is the most memorable event you recall from being at church? Have you attended church since childhood? And like Olivia said, this opens a lot for her family to start to reminisce and all of that. So anything goes. That's what is great about these questions. They can be customized depending on who's interacting. So now we will open it up to you all to ask any questions or make any comments.
And I'm happy to read out loud some of them in our chat. So we have a recent question from Lori. Thank you so much. So we provided the person contacting the Kapuna with a script. And so not necessarily, we did generate a list of questions as a group together that we thought would be, oh, I wish this is what I could ask my grandma. So it's super simple. It's just anything that you'd be interested in the Kapuna. It can be from church to church, or it could even just be what the keiki wants to ask their grandma and grandpa, and just keep it at that so that everyone can get to know each other.
Regarding the question about sewing and the quilting, it doesn't have to be sewing based. I was pushing myself. I had never really sewed before, but like if kids want to be involved, for example, you could use markers or puffy paint on just a plain background. So really it can be any kind of material or modality that these families want to participate in.
So I think also in the chat, Ron brought up a good point too, that some of these talk stories, whether it's get to know your keiki, get to know your kupuna, could also be in just a simple newsletter or an email newsletter and whatnot, because some churches might not have the capability to put all these video clips together into one big movie, but that would be cool too, if you do have that capability to broadcast that. And then I think another good point is whether these can be recorded or posted online. And I think it's also important to make sure that there's consent from whoever is involved, whether they would feel comfortable doing that.
Any more questions for the team? Or comments? Impressions? Good, better ideas? We'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Team Workaholic. Our next prototype team name is Team 3 Free C. Try say that 3 times quickly. I just can't do it. Start at 9. Oh, excuse me. The next one is Pandemonium at 9:30. I'm looking below. At 9:30, Pandemonium will be presenting in about a minute or two. Their prototype. Sorry about that. And by the way, these presentations are being taped and recorded and will be available on YouTube. And we'll send you that link with a nice thank you email to all of the participants and guests today. So Pandemonium, take it away when ready.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Dodie and my team Pandemonium members are Grace, Nicole, and Melissa. Today, we will show you a prototype of how growing a garden will be able to provide a safe place to socialize as well as other positive benefits for families and individuals during these challenging times. Our idea was sparked from the empathy data that identified the needs and wants of various community members during this pandemic. To begin our presentation, we would like to share some thoughts and feelings spoken by the community members on how the pandemic has affected them.
Other people need more aloha than me right now. What can I do to help?
I miss the face-to-face interaction. Church is more than worship. It's being able to be present and feeling connected with each other.
I want to have physical contact, even with social distance.
I want to break the trend of staying home. Building a garden builds relationships, friendships, and sustainability.
Gathering our data and talking to many community members brought us to our problem statement. We wanted to find a way to give church members safe avenues to feel connected in a way that makes them feel like they're part of something larger. This problem statement led us to our original model. So we really built this model from the outside in. We started with our exterior circle, which is all the needs that we heard from community members. And we kind of connected that to this garden in the center of the church community and how a garden can meet each one of these needs. As people garden, they can start a story bank. They can share their success stories. They can talk about their health, their week, their family, their friends, and their happiness. This is their opportunity to safely talk and social distance. Community members can also share skills as they garden together. They can share food and support with each other. They can spend time with family outside. This is a way we can safely increase community engagement. People can invite their friends, their children, their grandbabies, and families to participate and engage in the church community. If everybody could please take a second to close your eyes. Imagine after a long day of being online, sitting in your home office and feeling far away from your community, you're able to go to the greenery in the garden. You can breathe in the fresh air, you can bend, you can stretch, you can pull weeds, you can sit in the earth, you can feel the dirt, and you can chat safely with friends, family, and community members. Now open your eyes. This is the community center that we envision for people. Somewhere that invites them to stay, creates a garden, but also gives people a place to meditate or read, a place to tell stories, a place to not just grow food, but to grow connections with people and the Aina. This is a place where they can grow their church community's skills, their knowledge, and their capacity. They can start investing in a culture of sharing and inspiring wonder, even during these trying times. A chance to see change and success.
Community gardens can be an integral part of where families are able to grow their own food, be physically active, and have mental health benefits. The LOI Community Garden is one example of a community garden that has about 153 community beds that are rented out to the community members. The Makiki Community Garden is the oldest community garden in the state. This garden started out as an experimental sugar plot in 1960, and in 1975, it was declared a recreational gardening program. Next slide, please. The Makiki Garden has 160 community beds that are rented out to the community members. The gardeners at these community gardens are able to plant a variety of edible vegetables, fruits, and herbs, as well as ornamental flowers. Next slide, please.
Here's another image of the Maikiki community garden. You can see that you can start small and even have potted plants to start. So here's an example of what it would be like to be able to deliver fresh fruits and vegetables that you have grown in your garden to those in need or those who are kapuna.
you.
Thank you.
And research shows that there are many health benefits to having a community garden and being able to work in the soil. And it also brings people together. So you might be thinking, there might be some obstacles to starting. So some tips are to start with models that work. There's crop share associations that do exist, and so you can reach out to them. Resources include the University of Hawaii Agricultural Group. You can ask for tips on which kinds of plants will do best in the environment, and also maybe ask for some free seeds. You can also reach out to volunteer groups in order to help tend the garden, such as youth groups and cultural groups. And you can always start small. You don't have to start with a huge garden. You can start with a few potted plants, such as tomatoes and beans, and grow from there.
We present this as a prototype because we sincerely believe a community garden can be a wonderful ministry for the community. Gardens are a place of gathering, hospitality, celebration at a time when people might feel stuck or stagnant. The little sprouts and the big sprouts can mark change, growth, success, and progress in a tangible way. Designing a community garden doesn't need to be intimidating or break the bank. As Grace said, it can be fun, engaging, positively challenging, and strengthen your community in the process as well. You get to create a vision. What does it feel like? What does it look like? Use intentionality and creativity in naming the garden. What does it symbolize to you? Where is it located? You can find out about city and county regulations, underground wires and pipes, and all of this grows capacity within your members. You can consider existing resources, reach into the community, recruit volunteers, a garden coordinator, and youth groups are an often underutilized, underengaged force. It is very powerful in our communities, but they're missing connection too, and they're the future leaders. So you can really decide how you want this to look. What is your budget? Start small, build, go from there. Next slide, please. One of the strengths of this model is its flexibility. It can be a functional and established outdoor space for you to host any type of socially distanced picnics, cooking workshops, woodworking workshops, live music, book reading groups. The possibilities are truly endless for how you want this to take shape. It can match and be formatted around the interests of your members, the energy, their time, and the direction they want to take this. We believe it's a viable and cost-effective, innovative way to increase community engagement. Invite your friends, children, grandbabies, aunties, and uncles to participate and enjoy in something that is satisfying, fulfilling, non-threatening, COVID-safe, improves overall well-being, grows skills, and generates tasty byproducts in the process that you can share and donate. Next slide. Mahalo for taking the time to be here and allow us to share our prototype with you. We now open up to Q&A. Something that we heard the last time was that people were concerned about homeless people stealing food. And so that's why we went to the community gardens to address those issues, because if there are people so in need that they really need food, we think that that's an appropriate avenue to share, to engage, but also it's really not a problem in the existing models. And so we thought it was important to share that as well, that we went and we looked and we talked to people, and it's a very functional way. So there's a question in the chat. How would community volunteers ensure food safety of grown produce prior to delivering produce? This is a great question. And we are not experts in all agriculture. So I think this is where it's important to connect with existing models and to see what is the safest produce to grow here, how do you clean it afterwards, and learn that in the process. But thanks for the question.
I also, just to add on to what Melissa is saying, I know what a lot of CSA programs are doing right now is triple chlorine water washes of their produce. So they do like multiple light soakings of a chlorine or bleach water solution just to make sure that if anybody's hands were unclean, or if, for example, there were any slugs that had crawled over the produce. I know we have to be very cognizant of rat lungworm disease as well, that produce is the safest possible. And then it's packaged up and then delivered safely with no contact. We just got another comment. So as kupuna get older, the garden setting may become more difficult. Maybe they could do container gardens. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the wonderful reasons we were so excited about our garden idea, is that there's so many different ways you can create a garden. You know, you can do very high raised beds so people don't have to bend over. You can do container gardens. So there's lots of ways you can really create a space that's accessible to everybody. I also got a comment from Ron, so we could have the church cook the foods donated and serve in take-home containers. Absolutely. I think one of the exciting things is the ability to donate produce to community members who might need it. Any other questions? Oh, we have a comment about vertical gardens. I think Ma'o Farms is actually doing some really exciting pallet side gardens. So they take abandoned wood pallets and they're growing herbs in the pallets. So that's very creative. Okay, well, thank you everybody so much for your questions and comments. We appreciate all of your attention and all of your feedback.
Okay, thank you, Pandemonium team. Community gardens, something for our guests to think about. Perhaps in everyone's home, they can start their small garden to donate food, or as a church, or as several churches, they might want to start a community garden for all of their congregation. It's almost 9:45, and at 9:45 we will have Team 3C, Free C, still can't say it, present their prototype.
Aloha everyone, thank you for joining the webinar today. I'm Elizabeth and I'm joined by my fellow teammates, Corey, Jen, and Marie. We are Team 3 Free C. We hope you enjoy our presentation, and take it away, Marie.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thanks for introducing us, Liz. This year's Design Thinking Challenge asked us to redesign church as a place of fellowship, and what would it look like in a COVID-19 era. So we started out by asking the following questions. 1, how has COVID impacted you personally? 2, why is membership important to you? 3, define what your ideal place of church or fellowship looks like. 4, what platform do you use to attend church and what's your preference? And 5, how much time do you want to give to your church or place of fellowship? The data response indicated that without having a place of fellowship, people felt mainly isolated, disconnected, and disengaged. Because of how people felt, the data also indicated that people mainly wanted to focus on physical engagement or be connected in a safe environment and be of service to others in their community during the pandemic. All of this data led to our problem statement that Bob needs a way to stay connected to his peers and stay involved with his community. Based on our problem statement, we came up with a prototype that has 3 prongs. 1, gathering in a small group outdoors. 2, a spotlight family program. And 3, drive-by opportunities. So the first prong of our prototype allows for Bob to meet up outdoors with a small group of community members who live nearby. Together, they can utilize technology to watch a service, or if that isn't available or if Wi-Fi isn't available, they can use a prompt of their own to engage in a small group discussion. So here's a map that offers a conceptual view of how this would work. So whether you're a small or large organization or church with members in one area or throughout the island, then members could coordinate with each other to meet up at a nearby location. They could set up their own service prompt, whether it's a device like an iPad or a phone, and safely engage spiritually or enjoy fellowship through the written word. The second prong of our prototype is called the Spotlight Family Program. This program allows Bob to fulfill his want to be of service to other community members on a more specific basis. How this would work is the church or fellowship organization would send out a survey. It's the Spotlight Family Survey, and it would look like this, and gather information from their community based on a family's needs or wants, such as food supplies, tech help, arts and crafts, group prayer, yard work, or anything else that a family may need or want. So here's a little demonstration of how this might work on a small scale. So for example, if Liz's family or Liz filled out the survey and she wanted an extra hand with preparing a meal for her family that week, then my family would relay that information to Corey's family, who would then create that meal, and then Jen's family would be in charge of delivering that meal to Liz's family. A part of the Spotlight Family Program also includes our Keiki and Kupuna program. This will reach our kupuna who are in less accessible places like care homes, or if kupuna live by themselves and aren't able to drive. Then this allows for Keiki to keep them connected through written prayers, letters, arts and crafts, and you can even offer meal services. The third prong of our prototype is a drive-by opportunity organized by Bob's church or organization. This would happen more infrequently, maybe on a monthly basis. This allows for Bob to get involved on a larger scale and reach a larger audience or community through donation-based drive-by, or offering a drive-by prayer service or a prayer request drop box. Here's a visual of how the drive-by could look by bringing community members together safely and either offering donations or prayers. Finally, all of this could come together and be memorialized and shared with the fellowship community or church on a church blog. So every member, even if they're involved or not, could stay connected with what's going on with the other church members who live throughout the island. And this is a good way to make sure people are staying connected. So I'll pass it back to Liz for Q&A.
Thanks, Marie. So based on, we're just opening it up for questions so that we may elaborate a little bit more on our prototype if you have it. We had comments about the survey. We thought that was a really great way, especially in this time where technology has sort of overtaken everything we do today. And still it be user-friendly for all ages, including kids that are doing surveys in their school through testing, or the kupuna that just get basic questions and able to vocalize through this form, whether they're still in the care homes or taking care of by other family members. So the survey was a great component sort of thought of by the team, and most especially Corey. Rod mentioned food delivery also blends well with socializations. Absolutely. I think in Hawaii in particular, we're very connected through food. We always sort of, just from my own experience, and I'm sure my teammates, is that you can be eating at a table, eating food, but you're still talking about food. So it's a great way to stay connected and continue that conversation while having a meal, especially when someone else is preparing that for you as well. Would Jen or Corey like to add any additional comments until we get a question?
Yeah, we also just had a comment too, kind of about the Kapuno interaction. And I just think that's a good way to involve the elderly in the church who might feel almost the most distance with everything going on with COVID, because you know, the elderly kind of at a higher risk. And so they might feel even more segregated or more left out of these community activities as people are starting to kind of go back to church on smaller scales. And so I think just giving that opportunity to write letters or just connect the younger generation with the older generation can be very powerful.
We just wanted to add in terms of the proposed interaction with Keiki and Kupuna and the church and all the mechanisms that go in, that we are in a state in time where things are unpredictable. So whether we are going back in lockdown, this prototype could still be utilized in its scale. So I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening to us.
Great. Thank you, team. 3C. Again, for our attendees, please add your chats in there if you like the idea, you want to add in a new idea. And our hope is that all of these prototypes are sparking new ideas and new innovative solutions for you and your community. We have one more presentation from our team BIG, and that will start at 10 o'clock. And then we'll say mahalo to all of you and close our webinar. So at 10, our team BIG, B-I-G, will do their prototype presentation. Hang on.
Hi, everyone. We are Angela, Lida, and I'm Cody, and we're Team BIG. And our design think prototype is VCC, or Virtual Church Connection. But before we get into what VCC is, we just wanted to share our process of how we developed VCC. So we first started by collecting data from our personal communities, which included young and old, as well as church and non-church members. So the community needs we found were a safe virtual environment in order to maintain social distancing and COVID safety measures, technology that connects youth. Younger generations are attracted to technology-based media and find it easier to socially interact. Face-to-face interaction, many members miss the sense of community and small catch-ups before and after services. And something that's immersive and provides accountability. Some members found that it can be easily distracting while streaming service and desire a medium that requires more attention. So we applied these issues to our user Walter to develop our problem statement, which is Walter needs to find a way to connect virtually and physically with others to help him feel emotionally connected. So our solution is the Virtual Church Connection, which is a virtual reality church service. So in order to provide the virtual church connection, church families will need a headset along with a pair of hand controls. The headset will actually go over the user's head and cover their eyes, as shown in the image in the upper right. and hand controls would provide multi-functions. First, they would provide motion controls, allowing the user to meet and greet people by waving and giving virtual hugs or handshakes, as well as standing and sitting. Secondly, there would be an added button layout to allow the user to use different emotes such as hallelujah or amen during a sermon. Also would provide a private chat feature for users to have personal conversations before and after service. And Angela will explain how this technology will be applied and used.
Okay, so although our design is based on virtual reality, we wanted to acknowledge the importance of personal connection and physical touch. Some of the things we heard from the people we interviewed were, I miss the hugs and handshakes for the sign of peace. We're in Hawaii. It's hard not greeting someone with aloha, a hug, and a kiss. I'm an atheist, but I attend church to physically connect with others. Next slide. So in order to virtually encourage personal connection, we made our services a live feed so people could participate in real time. You would be able to sing and respond, and others could hear you just as if you were at the church. Families would be encouraged to sit together at home for the service so they could hold hands, hug, and share the moment, thereby adding some actual physical touch. We also included the option of watching the service on the television for those who may be unable to wear a headset. Again, this would be a live feed to encourage participation and interaction. We also included the ability to have a meet and greet before the service, as well as the option to stay and chat with a specific person after the service. As Cody described, there would be simple buttons to push that would allow you to move about and mingle with others. You could also choose to talk to a specific person in private, just as if you were there in person and wanting to hold a one-on-one conversation. If the church is open and allowing a certain number of members to physically attend services while maintaining social distancing, they would wear headsets as well so they could interact virtually with those at home. There would also be a large screen within the church center showing who was participating virtually so they could be part of the congregation. And now Lyda is going to talk about some additional pieces that will add to the emotional connection.
Thank you, Angela. So how are we going to get people to use these? The VCC will definitely require some training, but this training will create another opportunity for connection between church members. We would create a Kupuna Connections program. The idea would be to pair younger, more tech-savvy members with less tech-savvy members. So church members would not only learn a new vital skill for engaging in church, they would also gain a new connection within their church community. Another valuable use of the VCC is for gatherings. Next slide, please. Like Bible study, youth groups, and potlucks as a way for people to gather safely outside of weekly church services. Many in the younger generation are really natives to this tech virtual world, and the VCC would provide an opportunity for them to potentially get even more involved in church. An idea we have for creating potluck gatherings is to have some church members delivering potluck items to all church members prior to service gatherings. In this way, additional connections are being made and the VCC can be used so that all members are able to partake and share in the same potluck experience. Like, did you try the curry? Or who made the delicious bean salad? The last topic of discussion here is that the VCC has specialized options that can be available for some of our hard of hearing and visually impaired church population. For example, the VCC offers closed caption subtitles and adaptable hearing aids for the hard of hearing. Vision aids like increased font for closed captioning or prescriptive level optical wear for those with vision challenges or other options. We hope this gives you an idea for what the VCC is and how it can work in the virtual church world. We'd like to stop here and open it up to the panel for any questions and comments. Thank you for your time and attention.
So I just see in the chat, what is the equipment cost to do this? So for the model we have, it's costs about $299 just for the headset and hand controls. However, if it's too expensive, members can also just get the headset by itself. You won't get the same functionality without the hand controls, but they could still participate, and those can be range from about like $20, which connects to your iPhone. And then on the equipment side for the church, they would just need to get a virtual reality camera, which also ranges to a few $100s to maybe $1,000, just depending on the quality of the camera.
And just to go off of what Cody was saying, I feel like churches could possibly tap into some of the CARES Act funding that's available out there, as this would be a perfect COVID thing to assist members in the community. And I see a comment from Ron that said have to be sitting because of balance issues. And yes, that's a good point. Definitely, we want it to be safe. So depending on the level of function of some of our kupuna members, definitely they could wear it while sitting in a chair or a wheelchair, or while holding someone's hand for balance. So there are many ways to make it adaptable, safe, and fun for everyone.
And there was the added option of just watching it on the television as well for those that felt too unstable. If they did have a headset on, they could also just watch it on the television.
Yeah, and I see another comment from Ron about pastor could tape the session and put it in virtual at any time. And I think another note on this is that members could rewatch a church service or re-experience it and get that much more out of it as needed.
I think you have a question in from Alfred. Can you see that?
Yeah, so what are the additional software and equipment required other than camera skills? So you definitely need software in order to process the video. I'm not sure offhand what software would actually be required, but yeah, you definitely need some kind of video editing software in order to, you know, edit the footage.
And Cody, that would be to edit it to bring it, if it's a pre-recorded, or is that if it's a live feed?
So that would be for pre-recorded. If it's a live feed, then it would just stream right into the headset.
Yeah, and I think some of those tech skills, that's where the younger generation can kind of be attracted back to the church to kind of help assist with some of those things that possibly the older generation is feeling a little bit more uncomfortable with. So we thought that would be a nice collaboration between the younger generation and the older generation to strengthen that collaboration. And then there's a question, has virtual reality been researched as a tool to enhance mood and reduce depression and anxiety? So there are a lot of articles. We didn't actually note any of them during our presentation, but they are using these in some nursing homes already, and there are studies being done showing that the virtual reality does help with that.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Team Big.
Thank you.
Well done. Real quick, I see a chat from Wayne that says this may be the future of church, concerts, weddings, and any events or other events. And that sparked my thinking about drones. The use of drones and your 3D visual masks, where we drop in on one of the elderly or small pods of church fellows, and the drone just sort of sits there and kind of moves around and kind of gives you that 3D feel that you're there also. So that's just a thought that popped into my head. Okay, well, thank you very much for the 6 prototypes from the 6 teams from LEND. To our attendees, I want to thank you again for staying with us. And we hope again that these have sparked new ideas and maybe some solutions for you and your special group. We are going to put these presentations on YouTube, and we'll let you know what that link is. And again, at the end of, in the chat, there is a link that you can go to and do a survey for us. Very simple one. If you could fill that out, or you'll be receiving that in an email from us, and hopefully you can go and complete that at your leisure. Your feedback would be much helpful for our future leaders in the LEND program. So with that, I want to say thank you very much, and ahui ho until we see each other again. Aloha.